Welcome to the Starter Girlz Podcast, your ultimate source of inspiration and empowerment. We're here to help women succeed in every area of their lives: career, money, relationships, and health and well-being, while celebrating the remarkable journeys of individuals from all walks of life who've achieved amazing things. Whether you're looking to supercharge your career, build financial independence, nurture meaningful relationships, or enhance your overall well-being, the Starter Girlz Podcast is here to guide you. Join us as we explore the journeys of those who dare to dream big and achieve greatness. I'm your host, Jennifer Loehding, and welcome to this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Starter Girlz Podcast. Wherever you are tuning in today, we are so glad to have you. I'm your host, Jennifer Loehding. And so I want to open this up today and ask you, ever wonder how some leaders seem to navigate challenges with clarity, courage, and momentum? My guest today has built a lifetime of experience helping leaders do exactly that. And so this is going to be so much fun. As you can see, we are here in the studio today. Again, I'm so excited when I get to go in studio to do a podcast because I think it is just so much, or a podcast episode is so much more fun. So we're over here at the meeting place in the Farmers Branch, Addison area. And so if you are here locally, come and check this place out. It is amazing. And so before we do bring our guest on today, I do need to do a quick shout out to our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by Walt Mills Productions. Need to add excitement to your YouTube videos or some expert hands for editing? Look no further. Walt Mills is the solution you've been searching for. Walt is not only your go-to guy for spicing up content, he's the force behind a thriving film production company with numerous titles in the pipeline. Always on the lookout for raw talent, Walt is eager to collaborate on film and internet productions. With a background deeply rooted in entertainment and promotion, Walt Mills leverages years of skills to give you the spotlight you deserve. Want to learn more about Walt and his work? Head on over to waltmillsproductions.net and let your content shine. All right. And with that, I do want to make a mention to head on over to startergirlz.com. I tell you this every single week. And why do I say that? For three reasons. One, because you can catch up on any episode that you have missed, and they are all there pretty much. Or you can also sign up for our community newsletter, stay in the know. You won't miss an upcoming episode. And then last but not least, if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, or maybe you're in the thick of it, I don't know, and you want to find out what your number one success block is that may be hindering your success, well, guess what? I've got your back. You can go over there and take a 2-minute quiz that I've created, and it will tell you what that block is that may be keeping you stuck right now. So head on over to startergirlz.com and do your thing, whatever that is. All right, my guest, I'm so excited today. So Darin Newbold. Journey stretches from the plains of western Kansas to the boardrooms of growing businesses. A former COO, Army National Guard captain, and church plant leader, Darin is now a certified Purpose Factor and Enneagram coach. Through his bold GPS framework, he helps purpose-driven leaders uncover what drives them, what fulfills them, and what derails them, creating clarity, momentum, and stronger teams without losing themselves along the way. All right, Darin. Well, welcome to the Starter Girlz Show. Welcome to the meeting place. We're so excited to have you here today.
How awesome. Jennifer, thank you so much. And after that wonderful introduction, I'm kind of like, do you have the right person here? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But no, that's fantastic. And I'm excited to be here. Love to be a part of this. And since you and I have known each other for so long, but yet we still... It's taken a while to finally connect up. So I'm really glad we have.
Thank you. No, sometimes that happens. It's funny, you know, how I think timing is everything with people, right? Like I think sometimes you can meet somebody and it's like you cross paths and then you're like, okay, well, that wasn't anything. And then something comes up where you're like, hey, this person fits into this space at that time. And who knows what happens from there. So it's a good thing. But yes, we have known each other since like before COVID. Like,
oh yeah.
Wait, I can't remember, like way back when. I think I met you. I wasn't even doing a podcast yet. I don't think I'd started it yet. So, and it's crazy because our listeners that have been with us for a long time, this show is now this month, October, 6th year. 6th year we've been doing the Starter Girlz Show. So a lot of episodes, a lot of humans, a lot of stories. So good stuff. Well, and Darin, I'm excited because what you're doing, I think, is awesome because I think it's a lot of what I understand, like what I'm doing. And I love this idea that you've got the Enneagram in there. So I want to open this up and let you tell us a little bit about what you're doing to help your clients. And then I want to talk about like what got us to this place.
I hear you. So for me, what got me here was this journey of, well, going through some challenges. And I wish my story was that, hey, roads to riches, and I suddenly woke up and figured out business, had it handled, and next thing you know, I'm a millionaire and I'm on the, writing the books and doing the speaking. My road didn't go that way. It was a much more windy, up and down with more downs than it ought to have had. And what I learned through that, and what really kind of led me to this, is in those downs, and the blessing is having a fantastic coach, executive coach, that was helping me this entire time, kind of walk through some of that. And the challenge sometimes of when you're working with someone in realizing that their journey is this winding path, that he had to help me kind of almost look in the mirror and be able to see, hey, wow, I looked in the mirror, I saw the enemy, and the enemy was me. And it was at that point in that journey that the lights came on. And all of a sudden, things then didn't become instantly easy.
Right.
But what it did become is ways that I could then handle it, and the decision making became better, the actions became better and more direct, took more initiative, and all of the things that had been getting in my way started to, at least, didn't get out of my way, but I handled them to the point where then it did feel like they were out of my way. Like, wow, why did that even bother me, or why did that even challenge me? And so that was the journey that really got me to this place. And my coach is the one that ultimately, when my job situation changed, you mentioned I was a former COO and was for an e-commerce agency, and we had to restructure, and that was at the end of last year. And so the beginning of this year started this journey, and he was the one that had said, and this was the second time he had said this to me, was, Darin, I think you ought to look at being a coach. I think you could really bring a lot of the things that we've worked on and what you've worked on over these years. And with that, my passion has always been on personal development. I've walked across fire barefoot 3 times on purpose. Yeah. Jumped out of a perfectly good airplane, and all of that. And so with those things, I said, hey, now is the time. It really did feel right. And I pursued and became certified with both the Enneagram as an Enneagram coach, as well as the Purpose Factor, and really taking those and developing my own brand, my own product, and really what all that looks like. But
yeah,
that's a bit of the journey and how we got here.
Yeah, I have so much to say out of that, because first of all, the non-linear journey is so common, I think, for so many people in life, right? I think that if you had, I don't want to say that if it was linear that's a bad thing, but it might be kind of boring, right? Like, it just would not be the wild ride. And I don't think the lessons would be learned if everything was just in a straight path, right? Like, absolutely. I think it has to be crazy. But I will tell you, I know from talking to a lot of different people, and I will say in my personal journey, that even when you've had those nonlinear situations, there's a lot of overlap, right? Like, there's a lot of the pieces you pick up in each of those craft where you're going to the next step, and you needed them. You needed them to get to the next step, right? Like, you wouldn't have been able to be a coach had you not had some hard stuff that prompted you to get a coach, right? Mm-hmm. That worked with you and kind of put the mirror in front of you and said, hey, Darin, you got to look at this. You're the problem. Hello. And good for you for receiving it, right? Being okay with that, because that's hard to do that. But you wouldn't have been able to do what you're doing today had you not done all that.
Absolutely. And it's one of those that we each take our own time, and we each have to learn our lessons in our own time. And I now really enjoy being in that place where I can watch and see that happen with others. Yeah. And being able to bring great tools like the Enneagram, where it really, really shows literally the map of who a person is. And that map, any map you look at, it's going to have the great places to visit.
Right.
It's also going to have the places where you may not want to visit, and it could even show where the roadblocks, the bumps, the other things are, and that's the Enneagram.
Yeah.
And when you have that map to know so much about yourself, it's that self-knowledge, because the only person in the world that you can change is yourself.
That's right.
I can't change you.
Right.
I can't cause you to do, I can encourage you, but I can't change you. And that's one of the big lessons. And then the second piece that really fell into my lap, and this was the proverbial domino for sure that really pushed me down this path, was when I got introduced to the Purpose Factor. And for me, even though you may think I'm in my 30s, I'm not. Few years past that,
Yeah.
But with that, I've always kind of been on this journey of what do I want to be when I grow up.
Right.
And it was so illuminating to kind of just stumble into and find this assessment that really helps build that out and then show you your purpose. But not just that, it's then tying that into what fulfills you.
Yeah.
And when you know what fulfills you, and that's doing that on purpose for others, it's all of a sudden it's like, well, holy crap, where was this?
Right.
20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. And when you match that with what you're talking about, the Enneagram, which is finding out who you are as an individual, then you can take what your purpose is, put that with the strengths and then know your weaknesses, put those together. You got a perfect blend. So
well, and that's I'm branding that, and what I'm doing with that is calling that bold GPS, and that's your bold guided purpose system.
Love it.
So that your map of yourself is that Enneagram to know who you are, know the good, the bad, the ugly, and kind of needing a guide to help understand that map. But then also having a destination, or not a destination is not the right word, because I don't think we ever have a destination, but you have a target, a direction to go, and that's that purpose. You combine that, then bring in the knowledge of my years of experience, as well as being an EOS integrator for our company for 5 years, and a lot of that process and building out businesses, putting that together, that becomes bold GPS. And it really is a way to help someone kind of really understand who they are and help them be the best they can be, but then know where they're at, where they want to go on their journey, as well as, hey, what are some things that might get in the way, and some blind spots that they may not have ever known.
No, this is all good. I love it because all the stuff I taught, I love it. It's funny, when I worked with this firm for a while, and I had this, I was working, I don't remember, I think she was, I don't know if she was like, I want to say maybe a counselor and her former wife or whatever, but she was the CEO of the company at the time. And so we talked about the Johari window, and I loved it because it was the whole thing about the blind spots, right? And so what I love about what you're doing here that I think is really neat is that you've kind of crafted, because I think a lot of times, and I don't want to talk poorly about coaches, because I think there are a lot of great coaches out there. I'm one, there's a lot of them out there. But I think a lot of times people wake up and they decide they want to be a coach, right? And they're like, oh, I'm going to start talking about this mindset stuff. And I'm like, oh no, there's so much to this. And I think, the best place to teach someone is from when you've walked through, when you've come through something, and you can develop a system or take a system, borrow a system, whatever, come up with something that worked for you, and you know that it worked for you, and then you're able to transfer that to other people. And that's similarly like what I had to do, because I went through and I did a certification through a life coaching course. And then I had, my 22 years in Mary Kay, I got leadership, right? And then I went in and I did all these other things, modalities, like I'm nervous system trained, but I have all these different things. That's just a modality. But my point to this is that I had to bridge together what it was that I actually did when I went through this really hard, well, I've had several of them, but I had a really, really hard time in 2012 when I got diagnosed, which is in that book, with my disorder. I had to figure out how I came out of that, because people were asking me, like, what did I do to get out of this? And I had to think about, what was it that I did?
Yeah, what
was
that
it just
journey?
Mindset? Was it just because that was only the tip of the iceberg, like, right? That opened up this whole like volcano of like discovery that I was trying to go through, because it wasn't just even about that. It became about, why did it happen? Mm-hmm. How did I contribute? Like, what was my role in that situation? And that's what you're talking about when you say that mirror was flipped on you now, and you're looking at you and going, I'm the problem. I started recognizing where I had actually contributed to this. And so I think the big thing here that I want to say about your work is that I like that you're piecing together this framework of what worked for you. So it's not just you parroting this one thing that you learned and being like, that's the fix-all. That is the one thing that everybody... Yes, there are things we pull in that, but it's really a framework of things that help us be successful, fulfilled, whatever it is we're searching for, right?
Well, and it's meeting people where they're at.
Absolutely.
And again, just using the Enneagram as an example, it's one of those. I have a client that she's an executive, had started out as a basically an individual contributor, and because of her great success, got that promotion. Well, then got the promotion that now she's over, basically in charge of people that she used to report to.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting situation. She's also an Enneagram 8. Well, if you know anything about the Enneagram, 8s are the challenger. They are the...
I'm a challenger.
Yes, I would agree with that. They are the lead follower, get the heck out of the way kind of folks.
Do the job or move.
And so being a female in this situation, running into a situation where very strong, very confident, knows who she is, knows her capabilities, but then now feeling this imposter syndrome that because she's hearing things or hearing voices, whether it's hers real, or the voices that, the story that she's telling herself, as Brene Brown would say. And so helping her through that process and to recognize and to dispute, refute, if you will, the lies, the stories that we tell ourselves, but being able to fill that with the truths that she is worthy, that she is worth it, that she can do this, that there is nothing that prevents her from doing that.
It's good.
It's helping people on that journey. And that's what I love to do. I think it's a lot of fun, and I love to do that with the businesses and also being a veteran. Definitely have a soft spot in my heart for veteran and veteran-owned businesses as well, and how I can help them.
Yeah, let's talk about that. You being a veteran and coming into this space, because obviously you've been in a lot of places where you've had leadership roles, and that gets back to I think leadership. I think those of us that are there, we've sort of. I was never in the military. I've had people ask me that. They're like, "Were you ever?" I'm like, "No, it's never in the military." I would have been bossy. But the thing is, I think those of us that have leadership skills, I think leaders can be developed and born, but a lot of us, we fall into those roles. Like, again, going back to that nonlinear process, the leadership skills kind of carry, they follow you through. So I would love to know, what are some things that maybe you carried over that help you, like when you get stuck? Because people listening to this say, okay, well, we're helping them get unstuck, but that doesn't mean we don't get stuck. We have our moments too. Like I sometimes get in my own little funk, and I have just today. In fact, I was having a moment earlier today, talk about head stuff. I was having a moment today, and I was like thinking about something, and I was like, Jennifer, you suck. And then I'm like, oh no, we ain't doing this today. We're not going down that. And you know what I did? I started my mantra. Like, I have my own little, it's like a 2-sentence. I used to say it on my Starter Girlz podcast. It was my close, but I use it as my personal mantra. And when I find myself doing that stupid, like, you better believe, I'll be like, today's a great day to be brave. You might as well start now. You have the power to change the circumstances any day you decide. Let today be that day. And I will do that over and over. I will do it 10, 15, 20 times if I have to, just to get my brain in a different direction. So I want to know from you, what did you carry over?
So one of the things for me that I didn't realize this was a big challenge, and my coach helped me see this, and so now it's an ongoing journey, if you will. But it's when you're emotionally activated, and sometimes you don't realize it. You don't realize you're emotionally activated, but your body does, and your body's changing. And and it happens in different people. I feel it in my chest. Some people feel it in their throat. They can feel it wherever, but they'll feel it. And it's recognizing those signs when we're emotionally activated. And then the other thing for me is that having ADD and dealing with that fun, that your brain can you can just become so hyper focused on one really negative thing. And then I used to joke and tell people that the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse ride over the hill, and then they just pile on top. It's just a party after that. And I can, if I'm not careful, I can wallow in that. I can just take that. And where that really comes up is interpersonal relationships.
Yes.
Oftentimes it's the people that we are the closest to that then we either have some expectation of, or something is a need is not being met, and we get triggered or get activated, or something from our history all of a sudden comes up. And it's those times where I have to take that moment to recognize it, kind of call it out, give it a name it so I know what it is, put some emotion, where is it coming from, and then kind of question it and be able to reframe it, being able to question it and say, how is this serving me? Is this real? Is what's the story that it's really telling? And as you start to peel that back, you often find that, your spouse, significant other, whoever, they're wanting to intend harm to somebody else. They're not wanting to hurt.
Right.
However, they're going to do things that are in their self-interest that they may not realize create harm or hurt. And so it's recognizing that and being able to say, hey, this is really probably coming from a place of love.
Right.
Just doesn't feel like that from where I'm at.
Yeah.
And so that helps. And those same relationships happen at work. They happen between boss and employee or employee to employee, happens all the time. And being able to recognize that, and that's where teaching and helping teams understand kind of about themselves and have this kind of bring in the bold GPS piece, but have that understanding, it really can change the dynamics of a group. Kind of the big joke is imagine you're in a conference room and maybe you're the one that's presenting and there's 6 other people in the conference room. Well, if you could pause time and then see the little thought bubble above their head of what they're thinking about, the interesting thing is it would start to break out some of where their fears and motivations come from. And that's what the Enneagram really tells, is your core fears, your core motivations. And with that, all of a sudden, the conversations become wildly different. And the conflict can become wildly crazy if you're not careful.
It's good. Well, and what I'm hearing from you on all of this is really just the I'm taking away from it just the pausing for a second, right? Like the pausing to assess kind of thing.
Sometimes it's recognizing that.
Yeah.
And I would tell people that if, the first step is recognizing it, obviously, but being able to pause, that is not an easy thing.
No, it's not, especially when we get back to the ADD, right?
Well, oh, by the way, if you have just a tiny bit of a temper that every time comes out, that can make it challenging. Yeah. And so being able to then learn to pause and to be okay with, hey, I need to walk away. I need TV timeout kind of thing. Yeah. That can be helpful. And sometimes you don't get that. Sometimes it can happen in a moment, you're moving along and it's happened so quickly. You still need it's still helpful to be able to, at least in your mind, be able to ask a different question, kind of force and you just about have to force yourself to do that.
Yeah. And I think too, Darin, I think obviously, I feel like it's sort of like anything you do, CPR, anything, self-defense, anything, right? Like the first time you do it,
practice.
Exactly, practice, because even me, like I have a temper, and I've never been diagnosed with ADD, but I got 2 kids with it, so I'm pretty sure somewhere in our family it's running there. And it's funny, I attract all those people in my world. We're like glue. We're all together. It's like we all figure out we got that little something going on there. You know what? I will say something though. Let's side note this really quick, because ADD people are great at getting things done, because they can, in a moment's notice, think fast and move fast most of the time. So I think that's why that pause is so hard, because I had a lady come on my show, just to backpedal this a second. I had a lady come on my show way back in the beginning, and I can't remember, she worked for like IBM or something, and she did something kind of like the Enneagram, but it was not as broad. It was smaller. And I remember her talking about, she had labels for all these people. They weren't ADD people. We had labels. But she said people that are like, she was using me specifically, are the type of people that work well in high-paced environments. So I could go into like work in an EMT or a hospital or whatever, because in crisis, I can think really fast and I go into action fast. Like, and if we're all going to die, I'm like, you stick with me, because we're going to be fighting. We're going to be moving. We're going to be fighting. We ain't going to be getting caught, because that's how I roll, right? I can think fast and I move fast. But I also had another guy, the one I told you I worked with that firm for a while. He told me it scares, he said another explicative, but he says it scares the crap out of people, because I will take a situation. So imagine my husband's fear every day. I will take a situation and I'm like, dude, why are we thinking about this? Like we need to move. Like, we don't have time to sit on this. And everybody else is still talking about what needs to happen, what's happened. I'm like, we need to move. So I will say this about having that. I think there's a lot of strength in that, because it gives you the ability to make decisions and move forward and not have to sit and ponder. The other side of that is in those moments when we need to pause, we have to really be aware of that and pause, you know?
So here's an interesting example, and you've said you're an Enneagram 8. I'm an Enneagram 7. Okay. So, well, hey, we're right next to each other.
Probably.
All of that. There are some differences, and they're significant. One of them is the kind of centers of intelligence in how that comes together. Yeah. And so for an Enneagram 8, for you, doing is your primary. Yeah. That's where you go. So your doing is first. Then you think about something, and then
my husband would agree with you.
And then a lot later on, and it's always later on. Yeah. When you have a moment to pause, you'll have some feelings about it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Enneagram 7, I think about it first.
Think about it.
Then I do.
Then you do.
And then later on, I might have some feelings on it. So the interesting dichotomy of that is you have a 7 and an 8. So my fiance is an 8. Yeah. And a lot of challenges because much like you, she will, hey, well, let's just do it.
Yeah, let's go. Dive in. No toe dipping.
Did you even think about this, or this? Yeah. Did you ever consider? And so it creates some challenges. And part of knowing that is then helping someone like yourself, like me, because we're both feelings repressed, if you will. Yep. So being able to then, one of the greatest things for you and I, people like us, is to have those contemplative practices, to have that either meditation or just the kind of the alone time, walking or doing those things. That can be so helpful because it's one of the few times that we can ever try and quiet our minds down and really be present.
No, and I think it's great that you're doing this, Enneagram, because yes, I think that we know how we operate. When you don't know, then you're just like, the way it was, my husband says, it's like we were in, I don't know who it was, we were in his thing and he was talking about when you aim the gun, it's like, ready, fire. Ready, aim, fire? I'm just like, fire. Shoot. Yeah, my husband's like, you're like, shoot. And I tease my husband, I'm like, you're like, aim, shoot the thing. It's so fun. But my point, that we can laugh about this and make fun of it because you and I understand it. Like, we get it and we know how we operate. And I think that's the beautiful thing, is when you know how you operate, then you can say. And so even though I tend to lean into that go, I will tell myself a lot of times, Darin, I will say, Jennifer, you need to hold up for just a second, pause on that for a minute and sit in it and make sure. And so now I feel like most of the time, I mean, I'm in my 50s now. I feel like I'm learning a few things finally, Darin. I can finally think a little bit about it and go, you know what? Let me get one more piece of information before I just jump on that. Now, my 21-year-old son, I got 3 kids. My youngest is a lot like me. Mm-hmm. You can imagine what it's like, because I'm like, dude, Sean, did you think about that? Did you think about tomorrow or the next day, how that's gonna play out? Because it's just, I want to get it done. I want to do it. Get out of my way. And so there's a lot of truth in what you're saying. And I do think the Enneagram's great. I think whatever, I studied Myers-Briggs. I love the Enneagram. I think I trained on DISC for many years. Mm-hmm. Not quite as broad, but it would give you kind of a little bit of that. I think understanding your strengths and your weaknesses is imperative to succeeding at anything that you're doing.
It'd be interesting even for you, maybe even to look at the purpose factor, because we haven't talked about it as much on this, but the purpose factor, the way it's broken down is in 4 primary components. Yeah. And the first one is your natural advantage. So it's what Jennifer's naturally good at, what comes together. And then the next piece is the acquired skills. And those are the things that you've learned from your schooling and from life. The third thing is very unique. It's called your pull passion. And that's the problem that Jennifer is attracted to and most well-designed to solve. And then the last piece is your origin strength, which goes to that origin story of what struggles you've gone through, how you've handled that. You bring all 4 of those components together, and that builds out your purpose factor.
You got the dynamo factor.
You got the purpose factor of what your purpose is, but your purpose is all around how that is in the service and in what you're doing for others, because from others, that's where you get your fulfillment. So now you know your purpose and what fulfills you. Yeah. And having that and being able to then lean and live into that really changes the dynamics of everything that you want to do.
Yeah, good. We're doing good stuff, Darin. I love it. Okay, so I have some fun questions I want to ask
Fire
you.
away.
So, because I think we got to get this
We're
all.
Probably on the hot seat here.
Yeah, because we will just keep going on about all this greatness here. Okay, so here, a couple things I want to ask you. So I would love to know, like we've talked about kind of meditation and this personal things, any like wellness practices that are just like I feel like are just your guided thing. This is what you do. It helps you get through your day, keeps you grounded and focused.
Probably one of the biggest things, and it's still a struggle. I won't say that I'm an expert on this. However, I learned about a kind of a contemplative practice, and it's very simple. It's basically meditation, but you're just sitting quiet, 20 minutes. And you can start shorter and build up, but 20 minutes, and all you do is sit and clear your mind, and then you really have just one word. And my word I chose.
Is it the transcendental?
My word is called faith. So I can say faith.
It's kind of like transcendental.
And so just go through that for that 20 minutes, and it is for the longest time. In fact, almost every time I've ever done this, it's a 20 minutes of complete failure because trying to clear my mind is, it's tough. So, but in doing it, that was magic, and it has been magic. And I can't recommend it more highly for others, especially if you have that very active mind and you have struggles. I know a lot of people going to bed, they lay down and all of a sudden the mind kicks on. And being able to kind of have walked through and done it several times when you're wide awake, during the day, but being able to have that practice can be really magical.
I think it's great. I studied transcendental meditation. I started doing that when my daughter and I were going through a really tough time, and it was so helpful. But I do agree with you that sitting for 20 minutes in transcendental, they have you do it twice a day for 20 minutes, and that taking that time to just sit down and carve out to do that, and your brain's wanting to go but the whole idea is the same thing. You're coming back to that center word, so that hopefully when you're rabbit holing, your brain's going down, you bring it back in again.
It's having the grace to be able to say, okay, that's okay, and just let it go.
Yeah. When I first started, it was crazy. It was so crazy. I kept falling asleep. I'm like, don't lie on your bed when you're doing the meditation, because Jennifer would just be like, oh, she's tired. But then my practitioner would be like, your body probably needed it. Let it needed it. But meditation's good. I think it's good. And I love that you're doing something, because I think something's better than nothing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Okay, so balancing personal and let me backpedal. I want to do something different. I want to know, because we've said so much here, how do you define success? Because it's very different coming from like corporate to entrepreneur space. We have to look at things a little bit. Yes, we still are driven by our ROI. We have to make money, right? Because we can't be poor as entrepreneurs. But what is success? How do you define that for you?
Wow, that's a fun question. If you'd asked me 20 years ago, it would have been money, money with lots of zeros behind it. Now where I'm at, yes, you're right. We do want to do this. We want to do it for some level of payment to be able to live our lives. And we're providing significant value for the others. But for me, it's much more in looking at the value that I've been able to put back into someone, and to help them and to help others, and even help my children. I have 3 girls, and being able to pour back into them. So part of it is how can I build a legacy that hey, these are the things that I did, and okay, hey, while my dream may have been to be the next Zig Ziglar and speaking all the time, that may never happen. That's fine. But if there's people out there that say, wow, I'm different and I'm in a different place because Darin Newbold worked with me and we made these changes, and I can lead those changes back to meeting him and working with him, that's the huge piece.
It's so great when I ask this question. I haven't asked it in a while. I'm glad I asked you that. But it's so fun because I feel like a lot of us say the same thing in different words, and it's so weird how, as you age, your success meter changes basically, right? It's like I was telling someone, it's like when I was younger, I would do things because I wanted to get some money, and I'd be like scrambling to do something, and I would just do it. And now I'm like, okay, listen, if you're going to make me drive all the way down there for that, no, we ain't doing it. We just ain't doing it. It's not worth it.
You definitely make different choices.
You make different choices. You value your time and your worth, and what you're bringing to the table, so you think and operate differently, and I think that's such a good feeling when you get to a place. It's like even now I'm trying to build out this, this pet sitting business. I've told you all this, and it's so funny because I have to think about the type of clients we want to bring in and who the sitters are that we want. I've got both. I've got the clients and the sitters, but I want to make sure we have good sitters and we have good clients. And I'm trying to tell them about pricing and how we don't want to be low price. We want to be on point with everybody, but we have value. And if we're doing services for low and we're running all over the place and giving this, what's that say about us? Like, what does that say when we show up? And so I think, you make different choices and you operate differently. But I love that. I think creating impact is important, and leaving a legacy is what we really, at the end of the day, what we're really, I think most of us are striving for.
That's what we're looking for. So is leaving that legacy behind and being able to, I don't know, the thing for me is I can look back, even though it was this meandering path with my coach, I can look back and say, hey, changes started to happen. Because I went to him and basically said, hey, I don't know who I am. So help me find myself.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
not a small task.
No.
Find you.
Right.
Heck, so anyway, that was the journey.
Yeah. So you talk about your coach. Any other, like when I have to talk about like mentors or books. Is there anything else than I'm sure there's a lot. You probably got a lot like me, but any specific person, book, podcast, anything that you feel like really helped influence and shape the work and you're doing?
I think my passion started, and I told this story very briefly on LinkedIn as kind of my origin story, but it goes back to a girl. A redheaded girl that was in high school, and she was a year older than I was, and I wanted to ask her out. And I was a scaredy cat, and she worked back in the day, this was before some of the booksellers, and definitely before Amazon, there was a B. Dalton's, if you remember.
I remember B. Dalton's. Yes, I remember B. Dalton's.
And she worked there, and I liked to go there looking at books. Well, I walked around this small store. I was living in Kansas, so it was a much smaller store. Walked around it, I don't know, probably a dozen times, slowly looking at books, waiting for the moment because she was at the cash register. And as I was doing this, I finally grabbed a book, and I finally got the courage to ask her. So after all this time of walking around, I finally asked her. I was like, hey, any chance you'd go out next, whatever? Yeah. And, she smiled, and she kind of, chuckled just a little bit. But then she said, man, I would have, but I'm already going out with somebody else. And I'm like, Rrr.
Yep.
And the book, so I walked out, but the book that I picked up was Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude.
Interesting. Wow.
And that's the book that kind of started it. And I really I got into that, and I then became a big fan of Tony Robbins and all of the things that he's done, and followed a lot of it. went to one of his events, and it became a passion. I was constantly reading Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, all of the older greats, and those kind of things. And that's what really kind of set the foundation. And for me, I did that pretty young. I was high school.
I know that's what's going through my mind right now. Is like I was not doing that at that. No.
And so I'll tell you what kind of happened is good comment from someone. Wow, Darin, you're really so much more mature, and you're really ahead of your game. And it was in that moment that I took that a little bit too much to heart, and sadly, it poisoned me a little bit to the point where I got a little cocky and thought I knew it all.
Okay.
Oh, I don't need that. Yeah. And then kind of this is self-vulnerability here for an Enneagram 7, but 7s have a tendency sometimes to be a little selfish and a little bit basically feeling that, hey, they're owed these things. Yeah. And I got to that. And well, that's all well and good until you're in a sales job, and if you can't sell stuff, suddenly they say, well,
goodbye. Yep.
See ya. Yep. Don't let the door hit you in the behind. Yeah. And got some wake-up calls. So you now have this bit of the origin story, at least the story of it.
This is so good.
Those are the things that happen. And it was recognizing that, hey, it doesn't matter how much knowledge and how much, how mature you appeared at this stage. It is still the things that you're doing, and it's the actions that you're taking, the words that you're saying, how you're doing it. But what are you accomplishing, and what are you doing in the ways for other people? Yeah.
Darin, thank you for sharing that
that's
story.
the story.
Thank you for sharing that story. I know that probably wasn't, and that's good. I think it's so funny when you hear stories like that, like it's like something that happened to you when you were young and you don't even really realize how much impact that had, how that's like changed the whole trajectory of your life. Like the difference, like I think about weird stories that happened to me too. And in that moment, how maybe bad they were at that time, but how they really influenced a lot of what I am doing today. And we're talking years later, because obviously, I'm impressed that you were doing all that stuff at that age, because Jennifer was not touching any of that at that age. I don't even know what I was doing. I was probably getting in trouble. Who knows? But I wasn't doing that.
and yet you look at the story and you look at the journey, and it is a journey.
Right.
There's the ups and downs.
Yep.
But hey, if we do this again sometime, you can ask me about being about 2 to 3 weeks from adulthood, late 40s-ish, of having to move back with my parents.
Oh goodness, that we're gonna have.
We don't have time for that
need
here.
A part two.
We need a part 2, but
to talk about that.
That's the second half of this journey.
My sister had to do that for a little while. Went through. That's a whole. We need to have a whole conversation on that, because we might have some crazy stories to talk about both of those. So we'll have to do this.
But fortunately, I didn't. But I did. But it was very humbling.
I imagine.
And that was the kind of the ripping off of the proverbial, hey, there is no entitlement. You earn it all. You've got to do it. It's on you.
Yeah, it's all you.
And for this Enneagram 7, it was like, as I like to say, holy shit, Batman. Just not that darn funny.
Well, you're doing good stuff, Darin.
I'm excited.
Stay
Fun,
at it.
fun.
Keep doing it. And I always say the same thing. I hate that people have to go through the journeys to get where they are, but it is those journeys that teach the lessons that get you to where you are.
You have to.
And that's the only way you can teach other people is when you walk through the fire yourself. Literally walk through that fire. You've done it 3 times. And jumped out of a plane, you said. I had a professional skydiver I interviewed a few weeks ago. I'll be releasing his world records. I told him, I'm like, that is not anything.
That's awesome.
Nothing on my bucket list. I ain't jumping out of any planes, Darin. We ain't doing it. So, Darin, if our listeners want to get in touch with you, they want to learn more about Enneagram Purpose Factor, where do they find you?
LinkedIn is probably the best. Okay. Darin Newbold, you'll find me on there.
Okay.
Not a lot of Newbolds out there. My website is yourboldsolutions.com. Okay. So those are the 2 places, but LinkedIn is really the best place.
Okay. We'll make sure when this gets get the bells and whistles on, we'll get in the show notes wherever they need to find you at and all that good stuff. So
absolutely.
We appreciate you. Thank you for your time today. Thanks for showing up at the meeting place and hanging out with us today and sharing your journey.
This is awesome. I've been looking forward to it.
It's fun. We have fun here. All right. Well, I do want to say, of course, to our listeners, we appreciate you and you know what to do. We hope if this episode is inspiring, informative, hopefully it is, share it, like, subscribe, do all the things, comment. And as I always say, in order to live the extraordinary, you must start. And every start begins with a decision. You guys take care, be safe, be kind to one another. We will see you next time.